Hello and welcome to another F12 video. My name is Mike Hewitt.
And I'm Jacob Brains.
And we're going to be talking about, what are we talking about?
Async and await. It's not that complicated of a subject, but a lot of people get confused.
Badly.
It's often used badly. It's very powerful, and what's that old Spider-Man saying?
With great responsibility comes...
Great power comes great responsibility?
Yes,
that one. Yeah.
Something.
That's what it is. Because you could make it worse, but there's a lot of advantages. So when we talk about async and await, we're really just candy coating the topic of multi-threading. Mm-hmm. Multi-threading is difficult. I don't want to say difficult. I don't think it's that difficult, but there's a lot of nuanced complications. And what Microsoft has tried to do is they've created this async and await model to kind of smooth some of that out and make an easier way to do the multi-threading.
And when you're starting off programming, you're just going down a line, right? You're going right down the line. But there's going to be a time where you're doing something else and you want to do two things at once. Right. Definitely when you're working with console apps, you're just going down the line. But then, yeah, that's the key. Yeah,
so a lot of times we want to do two things at one time because we have something that's just going to take a long time, like something that's waiting. It's downloading a file. Mm-hmm. It's not that the computer's busy, it's just that it's waiting on the data to be transferred to it. Or a lot of times, with a lot of our newer computers, we have multi-core, multi-processor, mm-hmm. hyper-threading. We want to do things where we want to literally do two things at one time to get more processing, more horsepower out of our processor. Mm-hmm. So we're going to use async and await to do that. I've created an example class here that we're going to go in and look at. It has a single method here called lots of work. And let's go in and take a look at that class. So in our example here, I'm using the console.writeLine a lot so we can follow through and see what's going on here. And when we run this, it'll make a little more sense. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm doing a console writeLine do work. So you can see that we've called out the method and it's running. And then here's where things get exciting. So we're calling out this method here called slowly get string async. And this is hypothetically some method that we expect to take a while. That's going to slow up our system. Maybe it's talking to the database or it's doing a lot of calculations. Either way, here is our method down here. And you'll see it has the async keyword and it's returning a task, which is something you'll always see when you have one of these async methods here. I've written the word async at the end of the method name, which is in no way required, but it is a very common convention. A lot of times you'll even see they'll have an async and a non-async version of the same method. So we can pick and choose which one we want. What this is doing is when we have async, this allows us to put the await keyword in our function here. We could not do that if we did not have the async on the method up here. What this await is really doing, we're going to sugarcoat it a little bit, but what it's really doing is it's allowing us to cut our method in half. Everything before the await can run, and then we can return execution back to our other thread and let it continue while this finishes up and then does the last half of the method. So you'll see we're going to call this console.writeLine getting slow data. And then I've got a task delay here for 1,000 milliseconds, which is 1 second. Shouldn't take us too long, but it'll be long enough for our example. When this happens, this thread's going to be stuck here for a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to this method that we called out up here, back on line 16. And we don't know the results of this method, but we can get this task object. So this task object tells us that, hey, we expected a string, but we don't have it yet. And then we're going to put that into this task info variable. And we can check this variable just to kind of see what's going on with it. We're going to go ahead and do more work. And then we're going to try and grab that task info.result. And as soon as I hit that dot result, what it's going to try and do is it's going to try and get that string that's to be returned from this slowly get strings async. At that point, it's got to wait. What do you think, Mike?
So I'm kind of playing the person who's learning here.
Okay.
So when that await happens on line 27, is that happening before the 1,000 or after? Is it awaiting? So is it going to hit that and then kick back before the delay or after the delay?
At the point that you hit this, it's going to kick back.
Okay, so it's before the delay.
Yeah, it's going to kick back before the delay. So what I'm going to expect to happen is I'm going to see this do more work, execute, directly after my get slow data.
Right.
This, however, is behind this 1,000 second delay, so we haven't got to it yet. At the point that I hit this dot result, that's where the brakes get hit on. I can't move on in my code without getting this string back. There's no way to proceed forward. So at the point that I hit that dot result, no matter what's happened, if this slowly get strings async hasn't finished, I have to wait for it.
And it just knows to wait.
It knows to wait. When you hit that dot result, I've got to wait for it to finish. If it's already finished, great. But if it's not, now we've got to hit the brakes because that's as far as I could go without needing that data.
Now, is await and async 1-to-1? Can you have two awaits in an async?
You can have as many awaits in an async as you want.
And what does that do?
More is better. I mean, it basically, if one async chops it into two pieces, two asyncs chops it into 3 pieces or 4 pieces or 5 pieces.
Okay.
In the end, you're only getting back one task. And when you hit that dot result, they've all got to finish, though.
Gotcha.
Because you have to have gotten to the end of the method to allow this return to get the data back to get the result that we need for the task. The problem with async and await is that it's all out of order.
Right.
And just looking at it for the first time, it seems a little scrambled because everything is jumping around.
Right.
I think we've walked through this. I think it'll make a lot more sense. So when we hit this dot result, we've got to wait for this 1,000 milliseconds to complete. We have to wait for the get slow data to complete. We have to wait for this return statement to complete. As soon as this return statement is complete and the task gets the string back, then we can write this line out and then we can keep going. Okay, so we're going to step through this code. Now, here's the problem. Async and await doesn't always work right when you step through the code line by line. So we really have to hit it fast in order to be able to
Right, especially
to see
with the 1 second delay.
Yeah, the problem is it's trying to optimize it for us, and it's doing too good of a job.
Yeah.
So we're going to hit play here. And our program fired off real fast here, but we're going to follow through now and see what it's doing here. So our program starts out with its Hello World console, right?
Back at the main.
Yep. And then we have our do work, which is right here. We go into our method.
Yep. Everything's normal.
Everything's normal so far. Getting slow data.
That's the third
Getting
one,
slow data, just like you would think. We hit our 1 second delay, and we've got our wait. So it's like, well, I'm not going to sit around and wait for this whole second. Let's go when we could be doing something else. So once we hit here, we jump back to line 16. We're going to generate this task object to keep track of what's going on. We're going to continue on.
That's number 4.
To our do more work, which you can see here is the next line that fired. And then we hit this dot result, and like we talked about, that's a showstopper. We have to wait for this result to come in. So back here, it waits for our entire second to finish, and then it writes the got slow data. That's the next one, got slow data.
And it finishes up.
Then it returns the string, which gets back stuffed into the task here.
Which is now 19.
We've got the result now, which was the slow string data. So we're going to put that here, slow string data. And just to finish it out, lots of work done, lots of work done. So now you can kind of follow along and see the order in which things executed, and that it's not sequential like we like it to be as programmers.
Thank you for watching that video from F12 Programming. Please remember to like and subscribe. That does so much for us in the ratings. You have no idea. Also, don't forget to comment below. I hope you enjoyed, and good luck coding.